Hello and welcome to this calamelson.com video. Today I'm flying between two of Canada's biggest cities, Toronto and Montreal in Quebec, on the flag carrier of the country, Air Canada. This morning I'm taking full advantage of my Star Alliance Gold status with Singapore Airlines by using the express priority area of the airport. It was actually really smooth and simple. To make this even better, I actually went and used some of the lounge spaces. Although I didn't get any video shots of the main lounge, I actually was able to go and check out the relatively new Air Canada Cafe. This is a relatively recent concept that has come into the airline industry. What this concept allows is the ability to take away grab and go items or relax in the cafe lounge itself. I actually quite like this concept, and the airline provides excellent coffee in here, although I would say the croissant they provided was pretty naff and made good use of plentiful power outlets dotted throughout the lounge. I actually think this is a really good option if you're on a domestic flight, and especially in economy where you get less food offered. Soon enough it was time to go and grab my flight to Montreal, although with a bit of a problem. I actually went to the wrong Montreal flight. You see, there's actually many flights that take off between the two cities owing to lack of decent rail infrastructure. I ended up going to gate D12, and I realised after a while that I was actually on the wrong boarding gate, so I had to rush across the terminal to make sure I didn't miss my flight, and I got there eventually. And that was good news because we're actually flying on an Airbus A220 today, whereas the other flight was a turboprop. The A220 is actually one of my favourite aircraft, and it's just a great experience all around. As we board the aircraft, you can see the business cabin here dotted out in a 2-2 layout with proper business class recline seats, which is absolutely excellent. Meanwhile, in economy class, we've got a slightly different layout with 3 seats on the left and then 2 seats on the right, so a 3-2 configuration. This is really good, especially if you're traveling as a couple. These seats have actually got a lot of padding and a great adjustable headrest. But before we look at the seat, here's a quick view of the bathroom, which is much bigger than that 737 MAX I reviewed for Singapore Airlines a couple weeks ago. Really bright, really airy, and a decent amount of space. Air Canada have even gone to the liberty of having branded decent soap in the bathrooms. And this is economy class, that is excellent. And back to that seat, they're actually really nice seats. They look smart with an accent of red on the headrest with a in-flight entertainment display up straight ahead. This is much better than European economy class. And looking at that screen, it is amazing. And this sounds really silly, but you've got great connectivity, headphone jack, USB and USB-C, which I love, and loads of languages considering this is a domestic flight. A little bit slow at times and not always the most intuitive, but one must admit this is an amazing amount of content for a domestic flight, especially on this 1 hour 90-minute hop to Montreal. Food and drink isn't amazing. You have to pay for most items, which is not out of step with economy in other parts of the world, although coffee and water and a small snack are provided, which you will see later on. Live Canadian television is available on board, and this is the French version of ESPN, and of course the Inflight map, which is Flight Path 3D. Almost as good as the Panasonic one on my Singapore Airlines flight I reviewed a few weeks back, but Panasonic are just a tad little better. Here's a tray table, pretty standard, nothing really to shout about, more than big enough to fit a MacBook 13-inch on if you need to use it. And then straight down below you've got a proper 3-pin international power outlet, which is shared between both you and the neighbouring passenger. That's the only thing I would say is a downside. Legroom, pretty standard, not the best in the world, but equally I think that for most passengers you'll be pretty okay on these short flights. Safety card is in the seat pocket in front of you, no changes there. And with that, it was time to get ready and go across to Montreal in Quebec. And thankfully on this flight, I had a spare empty seat next to me, even though I felt comfortable enough as it was. The airline have even included a lovely little maple leaf logo on their winglet. Let's take a look at the in-flight offering, and let's be frank, there's not much to talk about here. They do offer Wi-Fi connectivity on board these flights, which actually could be pretty useful if you're flying from east to west coast, which are pretty long flights. Connectivity should probably be okay because you're flying over land as opposed to vast oceans. However, I didn't manage to test that, one, because it was a short flight, and two, the prices are not that cheap. Moving on, taking a look at that headrest, and it's adjustable both up and down on the two wing sides, which is really good. I didn't manage to test the recline though. And this is the limit of the food service on board this flight. Pack of quite stale pretzels. I wasn't very impressed, but hey ho, what can you expect for this cheap flight? Did manage to nab a Canadian Coca-Cola though. And just above you can see the large spacious overhead bags. These are more than big enough to fit a large carry-on suitcase, which is a massive benefit over them turboprops which also fly on these routes. Considering the lack of snow when I was in Toronto during this visit, I didn't realise quite how picturesque Quebec and Montreal's area would look at this time of year. It was really stunning to get these shots flying over the city and into the airport. And we came into land with no trouble, no drama, just a very good, decent flight from Air Canada. Now, what's my final thoughts on this service? 1, the aircraft is great, the seat is great for economy. 2, food and beverages, okay for a flight of this length, but really nothing to shout about. 3, the service from the crew wasn't the best in the world, however, you can't really judge from a flight this short. In all, would it make me shout about Air Canada and want them to fly them again? Perhaps I'd like to give them a go on a transatlantic to give them a fair judgment. However, this really did give me a good first impression of Air Canada, even if it was on a short domestic flight like this, and especially if I had a chance to fly on an A220 again. So what did you think of this Air Canada domestic flight between Toronto and Montreal in Quebec? Drop me a comment down below. Do you agree that it's actually a really good offering? Or are you a more experienced Air Canada flyer and you actually know the truth? Please do let me know. Like, subscribe and hit that notification bell to see my next video. It'll be a surprise, but I'm sure it'll be a good one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.
I can see